All right, guys. Don't have much time. In fact, I should not even be doing this at all, but I can't resist. I've went into this whole general topic numerous times. I won't go completely into it and cover every single base, but science has shown a massive correlation between hatred of homosexuals and homosexuality. They linked it with, in basically the most direct way imaginable. Like, there's no room for error. Men had their penile circumference measured while looking at various sexually explicit material. And it was essentially only the men who were like filled with hatred, like they were extreme, like hardcore, overly obsessed about homosexuals. Only they registered positive, like, dick rising from the homosexual pornography. Like, you're not going to explain that in any other way. They're gay. And just to be clear, who cares? Like, it would already be like, regardless, it's like, I've never given a shit about this. Like, you are attracted to men. I'm attracted to women. I'm attracted to men too. It doesn't matter. Who gives a fuck? It doesn't affect anything. It's not relevant to anything. Like, it's just stupid unless you have like such a massive proportion of the population being so that it essentially just means that the human race is going to die out. Even then, that's not the case, because now we can fucking fertilize eggs without direct sexual contact. So it no matter which way you hit it, unless you're religious, in which case I can't really help you. You have a delusion problem there. Like, it's just irrelevant. Who gives a fuck? But the reason why I point this out, because it's so fucking juicy. Like, it's so ironic. It makes sense psychologically. It's like self-flagellation and like hatred to such an extent that you fucking project it outward toward the rest of the world. It's like you're so angry that you were born gay. And like, you of course know that society in general, well, I won't say that anymore, but a good amount of people in society don't care much for gay people. Let's put it that way. So yeah, this has been shown again and again and again. And I've pointed it out numerous times about how hilarious it is and how ironic it is. But this is a particularly hilarious example here. So, Larry Craig, well, let me just read it here. This is the Larry Craig scandal. On June 11, 2007, Larry Craig, a Republican United States Senator from Idaho, was arrested for lewd conduct in a men's restroom at the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. On August 8th, Craig entered a guilty plea to a lesser charge of disorderly conduct. As a result of the controversy surrounding his arrest and guilty plea, and following pressure from fellow Republicans, Craig announced on September 1st, 2007, that he intended to resign from the Senate effective September 30th. After subsequent failed efforts to withdraw his guilty plea, he released an October 4th statement indicating that he would not resign. Craig remained in the Senate until his term expired in January 2009. He did not run for re-election in 2008, and the airport restroom scandal effectively ended his political career. Wonder why. Craig served in the U.S. House of Representatives before being elected to the U.S. Senate from Idaho in 1990. A conservative Republican, Craig opposed same-sex marriage during his political career. Craig is married and has 3 adopted children. This is why I even draw any attention to this. He was an avid spokesperson against same-sex marriage. He was always fucking spouting fucking hatred-filled bile out of his fucking mouth. Never made any valid points, just hated and looked for like mental gymnastics to like fucking excuse that hatred. The same as pretty much all people who hate gay people. But it's important to draw attention to this because the extent at which this continues to be a thing, like this is not rare. And it's almost like a perfect correlation to where the more someone hates gay people, the more likely they are to actually be gay. Like the correlation's too perfect. So honestly, I'm about at a point where the moment I hear someone say something bad about gay people, I automatically have a suspicion that at least they might be gay. And I'm already like looking for any signs. and again, I don't really give a shit. I only do so that I can use that as ammunition against them because, well, let's be honest, if you're, even if it's like self-hatred, whatever, if you are espousing hatred for something that's beyond your control, like who you're attracted to, especially if you hide in bullshit like that it's a choice, which it's not according to science, then you're just a piece of shit. And I don't have any fucking sympathy for you. You should be buried. And, well, you were in this case. Anyway, continuing. On June 11, 2007, Craig was arrested at the Did I already read that? No. On suspicion of disorderly conduct. The nature of the alleged activity has been categorized by some as cottaging. According to the police report, the police officer sat in the bathroom stall as part of an undercover operation investigating complaints of sexual activity in the restroom. After about 13 minutes of sitting in the stall, the police officer observed Craig lingering outside and frequently peeking through the crack of the door on the stall. Craig then entered the stall to the left of the officer's stall. The police officer's incident report included the following observation as to what happened next. At 12:16 hours, Craig tapped his right foot. I recognize as a signal used by persons wishing to engage in lewd conduct. Craig tapped his toes several times and moves his foot closer to my foot. The presence of others did not seem to deter Craig as he moved his right foot so that it touched the side of my left foot, which was within my stall area. Craig then proceeded to swipe his left hand under the stall divider several times with the palm of his hand facing upward. According to the incident report and criminal complaint filed in court, the officer showed Craig his police identification beneath the partition separating their stalls, and the officer then pointed his finger towards the restroom exit. Craig initially said no, but he ultimately complied with the officer's request to leave the restroom. After Craig and the officer left the restroom, Craig was reluctant to go with the officer and demanded the officer show his police identification a second time. Once the officer complied with the request, Craig, the arresting officer, and a police detective who was stationed outside of the restroom went to the airport police station. After the arresting officer read Craig his Miranda rights, the officer interviewed Craig about the restroom incident. At one point, Craig handed his business card to the arresting officer, which identified him as a U.S. Senator, and said to him, "What do you think about that?" According to the arrest report prepared by Sergeant Dave Karsnia, Craig stated, "He has a wide stance when going to the bathroom and that his foot may have touched mine." Craig never used the term wide stance himself. According to the transcript of the police interrogation, Sergeant Karsnia asked, "Did you do anything with your feet?" And Craig replied, "Position them, I don't know. I don't know at the time. I'm a fairly wide guy." When the officer asked Craig about the use of his hands, Craig said that he reached down with his right hand to pick up a piece of paper that was on the floor. The officer disputed Craig's account, saying there was not a piece of paper on the bathroom floor, nor did Craig pick up a piece of paper. Craig also disputed the officer's assertion about the positioning of his hand. During the interview and in the incident report, the officer commented that Craig either disagreed with what happened in the restroom or could not recall the events as they happened. Craig returned to the airport on June 22nd to complain about how he had been treated by the police. According to the police report about Craig's return, Craig said he wanted information for his lawyer. Craig pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct by signing and mailing a plea petition dated August 1st, 2007, to the Hennepin County District Court in Minnesota. He paid $575, equivalent to $872 in 2024, including fines and fees. Senator Craig signed the petition to enter his guilty plea, which contained the provisions, "I understand that the court will not accept a plea of guilty from anyone who claims to be innocent. I now make no claim that I am innocent of the charge to which I am entering a plea of guilty." Craig mailed his signed petition to the court, and his petition to plead guilty to the misdemeanor charge was accepted and filed by the court on August 8, 2007. The scandal breaks. On August 27, 2007, Roll Call published a story about Craig's arrest at the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport and his subsequent guilty plea in that case. The Idaho Statesman published a story on August 28, 2007 about 3 other allegations involving Craig's sexual conduct. A college student who was considering pledging at Craig's fraternity at the University of Idaho in 1967 told a reporter for the Idaho Statesman that Craig led the student to his bedroom and made what the man said he took to be an invitation to sex. In the second reported incident, a man who identified himself as gay told a reporter that Craig cruised him at the REI store in Boise in November 1994, following him around the store for half an hour. The last reported incident to the Idaho Statement about Craig's conduct came from a 40-year-old man with close ties to Republican officials. According to the man's story about the encounter with Craig, the man reported having oral sex with Craig at Washington's Union Station, probably in 2004. A reporter for the Idaho Statesman interviewed Craig on August 28, 2007, regarding the allegations about his conduct. In response to the reporter's questions, Craig said, "I'm not gay, and I don't cruise, and I don't hit on men. I don't go around anywhere hitting on men, and by God, if I did, I wouldn't do it in Boise, Idaho. Jiminy." Typical Republican. At an August 28, 2007 press conference in Boise, Idaho, Craig said, "I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport. I regret my decision to plead guilty and the sadness that decision has brought to my wife, family, friends, staff, and fellow Idahoans. For that, I apologize. In June, I overreacted and made a poor decision. While I was not involved in any appropriate conduct at the Minneapolis airport or anywhere else, I chose to plead guilty to a lesser charge in the hope of making it go away. I did not seek any counsel either from any attorney, staff, friends, or family. That was a mistake, and I deeply regret it. Because of that, I have now retained counsel, and I am asking my counsel to review this matter and to advise me on how to proceed." Craig claimed that his state of mind was troubled at the time of the guilty plea because he and his family had been relentlessly and viciously harassed by the Idaho Statesman in the course of its investigation into allegations of Craig's homosexuality. On August 30th, the Statesman called for Craig's resignation. In response to questions about the arrest, the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport Police Department released an audio tape of Craig's interview with Sergeant Dave Karsnia, the arresting officer. In that interview, Craig denied wrongdoing and claimed that he was a victim of entrapment. The Craig scandal became a major national news story. Aftermath. Craig was one of 2 Senate liaisons for Mitt Romney's 2008 presidential campaign, but removed himself from that campaign role after the conviction became public. Romney said of Craig, "He's disappointed the American people." Craig later expressed bitterness about Romney's handling of the incident, saying in an interview with Matt Lauer, "And Romney not only threw me under his campaign bus, he backed up and ran over me again." I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that Mitt Romney was also involved and they were going around diddling fucking dudes and shit. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It's typical Republican behavior at this point. A Washington watchdog group, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, filed a complaint with the Senate Ethics Committee requesting an investigation into whether Craig violated Senate rules of conduct. Members of the Republican Party in Congress began calling for Craig to resign, including Representative Pete Hoekstra, Senator John McCain, Senator Norm Coleman, and Senator John Ensign. Coleman and Senator Susan Collins announced that they would donate campaign contributions received from Craig's Political Action Committee to charity. Senator Patrick Leahy, sitting chair of the Judiciary Committee, criticized the Republicans for holding to a double standard, for not having called likewise for the resignation of Senator David Vitter, Republican from Louisiana, accused in a call girl scandal. Leahy said further that the Republicans were motivated by politics and that Craig would be replaced by a Republican governor while Vitter would be replaced by a Democratic governor. Ensign, for the Republicans, denied the double standard, saying on ABC that Craig had pleaded guilty to a crime while Vitter was only accused. Senator Arlen Specter, then Republican of Pennsylvania, encouraged Craig to fight to withdraw his guilty plea, concluding on Fox News Sunday, "I think he could be vindicated." He's probably gay too. Which, again, only matters because you're against gay rights, which makes you an idiot and a piece of shit. Senate GOP leaders, including Mitch McConnell and Trent Lott, asked Craig to temporarily step down as the top Republican on the Veteran Affairs Committee, Appropriations Subcommittee on the Interior, and Energy and Natural Resources Subcommittee on Public Lands and Forests. Craig subsequently agreed to step down from those posts as the ranking minority member. Resignation, reconsideration, and motion to withdraw guilty plea. At a news conference on September 1st, 2007, Craig announced his intent to resign with sadness and deep regret, effective September 30th, 2007. On September 4th, 2007, a spokesperson for Craig indicated that he was reconsidering his decision to resign and might remain in office if his conviction was rapidly overturned and his committee assignments were restored. On September 10, 2007, Craig's attorneys filed a motion to withdraw his guilty plea, arguing that it was not knowing and intelligent and therefore was in violation of his constitutional rights. His lawyers further argued that Craig felt compelled to grasp a lifeline, hoping that if he were to submit to an interview and plead guilty, that none of his allegations would be made public. The motion argued that Craig had entered the plea under stress caused by media inquiries into his sexuality. Craig's motion hearing to withdraw his guilty plea was held on September 26, 2007, before Judge Charles A. Porter Jr., Craig's Washington. What the fuck? Oh, that's a new sentence. Craig's Washington, D.C. attorney, William Martin, argued that Craig's actions could not be considered disorderly conduct because you should have either touching or words or a combination of the two. The other main argument was made by Craig's Minneapolis attorney, Thomas Kelly, who argued that the mail-in petition used by Craig was defective because it lacked a judge's signature. On September 26, 2007, Craig released a statement that he would remain in office until the Hennepin County District Court judge ruled on his motion to withdraw his guilty plea. On October 4, 2007, Porter denied Craig's motion to withdraw his guilty plea, ruling that Craig's plea was accurate, voluntary, and intelligent, and the evidence supported the conviction. After Judge Porter's ruling, Craig stated that despite having announced his resignation, he would serve out his Senate term. He stated that he intended to, quote, continue my effort to clear my name in the Senate Ethics Committee, something that is not possible if I'm not serving in the Senate. Craig did not run for re-election in 2008 and left office on January 3, 2009. He was succeeded by Republican Jim Risch, the Lieutenant Governor of Idaho. In September 2008, Craig's Attorney General before a 3-judge panel of the Minnesota Court of Appeals that there was insufficient evidence to find Craig guilty of a misdemeanor. As part of Craig's appeal, the ACLU filed a brief that cited a Minnesota Supreme Court ruling from 38 years earlier, finding that those engaging in sexual encounters in closed stalls and otherwise public restrooms have a reasonable expectation of privacy. The ACLU argued that this court decision contradicted the state's claim that Craig was inviting the undercover officer to have sex in public. In December 2008, the appellate court rejected this attempt to have the guilty plea overturned and rejected the constitutional challenge to the charges. On January 8, 2009, Craig dropped his appeal to the Minnesota State Supreme Court after his attorney determined that the court would be unlikely to accept a petition for further review of the case. This action ended the legal challenge to his guilty plea. More allegations emerge. In December 2007, 8 gay men came forward to the Idaho Statesman newspaper alleging either sexual encounters with Craig or attempts by Craig to engage in sexual encounters. 4 of the men gave the newspaper graphic recorded details of their alleged sexual encounters. One of the 4 was Mike Jones, the male escort who in November 2006 had involved in a sex and methamphetamine scandal with megachurch pastor Ted Haggard. Megachurch pastor. Going right back into the Republicans again. This is not some rare one-off. This is like part and parcel for Republican. This is like Republican 101 here. The only difference between them and like the gay people on the left is the people on the left aren't insecure and they're just open about being gay, and they also don't do all this fucking corrupt shit where they fucking try to touch people without their consent and crap. The fuck. Anyhow, that was me, by the way. And moving back with the reading, Jones claimed that Craig had paid him $200, equivalent to $312 in 2024, for massage and oral sex. A Craig spokesperson responded, Mike Jones is lying in order to sell his book about Ted Haggard, plain and simple. Larry has never met Mike Jones. Use of campaign funds for legal defense. February 2008, Senate Ethics Committee letter. On February 18, 2008, the Senate Ethics Committee sent a letter of admonition to Gregg stating that his improper conduct reflected discreditably on the United States Senate. The committee held that Craig had indeed committed the actions for which he had pleaded guilty, and that his efforts to withdraw his guilty plea were intended to evade the repercussions of his actions. Noting that Craig had tapped campaign funds to spend $213,000, equivalent to $311,000 in 2024, for legal fees and public relations fees on the case, the committee argued that this showed his disregard of ethics. Campaign funds may pay legal bills only when they are related to the senator's official duties, not when you go around touching guys without their consent. In June 2012, the Federal Election Commission sued Craig for repayment of $217,000, equivalent to $297,000 in 2024, of campaign funds plus fines of $6,500, equivalent to $8,900 in 2024, from Craig and his treasurer, Kay O'Riordan. The suit arose from Craig's use of campaign funds to pay for his legal defense in the disorderly conduct case. In an August 2012 filing, Craig's lawyer, Andrew Herman, wrote, not only was the trip itself constitutionally required, but Senate rules sanction reimbursement for any costs relating to a senator's use of a bathroom while on official travel. Herman cited an FEC ruling that allowed former Congressman Jim Kolb to use campaign funds for his legal defense in the Mark Foley scandal. In March 2013, the court found expenditures for legal fees did not qualify as ordinary and necessary expenses in connection with Mr. Craig's duties as a federal office holder and irrespective of his duties as an office holder. Craig appealed to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit on March 4, 2016. The Court of Appeals upheld the lower court ruling and ordered Craig to pay $242,533, equivalent to $317,761 in 2024, to the United States Treasury Department. In popular culture, both the 2009 documentary Outrage and Newsweek's June 7, 2010 issues backstory listed Craig as one of several prominent conservative politicians who had a record of anti-gay legislation and was later caught in a gay sex scandal. The stall, second from right at the Minneapolis St. Paul Airport bathroom in which the incident occurred, gained notoriety. The restroom was later demolished. Man, this is good stuff. Good stuff. So, again, just to kind of reiterate my point, the important takeaway here, aside from the obvious, regardless of your fucking who you're attracted to, male, female, whatever, don't fucking fuck with people without their consent. Like, I really shouldn't need to tell anyone that, but apparently you need to say that a lot to Republicans, including the current president of the United States, which it's very fucking crazy that he's still there. Child diddling motherfucker. Anyway, so the second point that I was getting to there, and I got distracted by Trump being a child diddler. What was I going on there? Yeah. Anytime you see like extreme, especially on the right, because they have a history of projection. Anytime you see someone on the right, like ardently being like extremely offended and angry toward something, especially if it's something that doesn't harm other people, there's a high likelihood that they are projecting it. So we've seen it time and time again when it comes to homosexuality, and they are like anti same-sex marriage and all that good stuff. Um, I would say that there's probably a lot of that also going on with the anti-trans backlash, all this dumb shit, and they just make up a bunch of crap out of nowhere to try to like use as justification for like anti-trans fucking legislation. Yeah. Uh, it's it's like the more they push it, the more I think that they're like fucking like secretly trans people that are just they're too self-hating to come out. And then of course they hate the trans people even more because they're actually courageous, whereas the Republicans in question are fucking like cowardly as fuck because they fear everything. Anyhow, next time you hear, especially anyone on the right, bashing gay people, trans people, or any other marginalized group, keep this story in mind because again, it's not rare. It's it's beginning to look like it's more the rule. Thank you for your time.